Crystal, welcome to the show today. So good to have you on.
Thanks, Jason. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you here as well. So I know we've got a lot to talk about today, and I know the audience is going to love getting to know you like I've gotten to get to know you. And so with that, let's just get right into it. So first of all, Crystal, why don't you let us know who you are, give us an intro, where you're at in the world, and share anything you'd like.
Yeah, thanks. So I'm currently a master's student at the University of New Haven, and I'm getting my master's in industrial and organizational psychology. And I graduate in May, so almost done. And recently I have decided to start my own business, which has been a new direction and something exciting for me. And I also discovered accomplishment coaching, as we'll talk about. And I think I kind of want to go a coaching route as well. So those are kind of some things I'm interested in pursuing.
Very cool. Well, you know me, I love the entrepreneurial spirit, so I'm sure we'll hear a lot more about the business you're starting now and also what you're coaching to. So again, thank you for being on today. So I know Crystal, so she mentioned accomplishment coaching. So I know Crystal, as I've mentioned here on this show before, I'm wrapping up my program with accomplishment coaching, it's a professional coaching organization. And Crystal has been gracious enough this year to be a guest client. So what that means is that Crystal offers her time to be coached by a wide variety of people. So I believe you've had 10 coaches this year, Crystal?
Yeah, about 10.
That's a lot. It's a lot of coaches. So you can imagine having 10 coaches. She's seen 10 very different styles and personalities. I was fortunate enough to work with Crystal a few months ago, is how we got to know each other. And here we are today on the show. So Crystal, one of the traditions I have here on the show is we get to give each other our first impressions of each other. And because it's my show, I'm going to ask you to go first.
Awesome. Okay. So yes, we met through accomplishment coaching, guest client, or I call it practice coachee when I explain it to people. Just a practice for the coachees. Yeah, exactly. So my first impression is a little bit ironic that my coach before you, our very last session, we had talked about me being nervous about having a male coach, right? I hadn't had one before, and I have trust issues with males. And so I was like, what if I get a male coach? And then I show up and I get you. And so I was like, male coach, what do I do with this? But it was awesome. You were great. It was fun. My two takeaways after we met in person was this guy is competent and he's fun. So I was like, he can carry a conversation, but he's also a super cool, fun guy. So that was my first impression.
Awesome. Thanks, Crystal. I hear the fun thing a lot. I barely hear the competent thing. So thank you very much for that. Yeah, it's funny. It's funny how it works. I feel like because you said the male thing, that's probably one of the reasons we actually got paired up. I just feel like there's this magic / some sort of system that's unbeknownst to me or you that actually puts us together that way. But that's super cool. I really appreciate that. So my first impression of you, so I'd seen you in the back of the room, and I think I knew your name, but we hadn't really been formally introduced. So I had heard about you from some of my teammates, and the resounding overall was this girl is awesome. Huge, driven, smart, successful, working on what she wants in life. So I kind of had in my head, oh, Crystal, I've heard about Crystal, but I haven't talked to her. And when I met you and we got a chance, I'm oh yeah, it's pretty much exactly what all the people that have already coached her have said. So my first impression of you is very smart. You're also very immediately organized when you're oh yeah, here's my calendar. Cause a lot of people are when do you want to meet? Let's text each other. And I'm nope, here's a link to my calendar. You're oh, thank God. Just very organized, which works well for me. And, you've exceeded my expectations in the time we've known each other as well. So it's been really fun to get to know you and now sit here on my podcast together. It's really super cool. Mm-hmm. So let's go ahead and get into it. And first question for you. What is something that you nerd out about, Crystal?
Something I nerd out about? Two things. One, I'm a huge Harry Potter fan. Not a dress up and carry a wand fan, but I am always reading one of the books of the series. And I went to Universal Studios this this summer for the first time, and going to Harry Potter World was a dream come true. It was so fun, drinking butterbeer, riding the Hogwarts Express. I felt like such a nerd, and I like loved every second of it. So
Harry Potter.
yes.
What's your favorite book? Do you have, or if you have one?
Probably the seventh one. I feel like it just wraps everything together so well. I think J.K. Rowling just like is like a mastermind at writing, and just the way the seventh book brings the whole story together, like little details from the first book, and just she wraps it all is like awesome and so beautifully
Yeah,
done.
that's cool. I have watched I watched the first movie when it came out because it's like so massive. And I read the first three books and then I trailed off and I haven't seen any of the rest of them. I think the last one I saw was when I think it was Ron's brother died in one of the tests or something. Like he had to go and do this thing. I don't remember. I think maybe it was the fourth book. And I don't think I've seen the movie either. So it's a bummer because it is amazing. And I just like, for whatever reason, fell off with it. So
Yeah.
maybe I need to get back into Harry Potter. And now that I have a 3-year-old, I feel
Mm-hmm.
like at some point, a little young for that, but maybe in a few years, I can start reading that to her, which will be super fun. And then,
Yeah.
she can watch the movie and everything. I think it might be a little scary for a 3-year-old still, but
Maybe.
yeah.
Yeah.
So you're standing in front of the Sorting Hat.
Mm-hmm.
What house are you? What house do you get placed into?
Probably Ravenclaw. I've done like the test on Pottermore, and that's the one that that it. I know it sounds so nerdy. I
What's
know.
Pottermore? Is that a website?
Yeah, it's a website. You can
Amazing.
yeah, you can figure out what house you're in and like what your wand is and like all these different things. So I've been sorted into Ravenclaw, which I feel good about. That fits me
Yeah.
pretty
Good.
well.
Yeah.
So
Is it weird that I want to be in I'd like to be in Slytherin. Like that would be
oh
actually where I'd want to go.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's weird. You're a dark
Yeah.
person then.
I'm a dark person. Yeah. What's Ravenclaw known for?
Like their smartness, which I don't know that I'm that smart, but I really like to read, and so I kind of might attribute it to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Well, if you ever get a chance to actually attend Hogwarts at some point, hopefully you get into
Yeah.
Ravenclaw.
Oh, I would love that. When I was a kid, like I really wanted my letter to come. I was so disappointed when I turned 11 and I didn't get a letter in the mail inviting me to Hogwarts.
Well, you're a muggle. Sorry.
I know. I am.
You're just a plain old muggle.
All
Me
right.
too. So 2 muggles here on the podcast. Well,
Yeah.
cool. That's learned something brand new about you today, which is super fun.
Yes.
So what's something that's inside of your comfort zone that's going to be outside of somebody else's comfort zone?
I think so. I spend a lot of time in nature and go on a lot of hikes by myself. And I realize that like that's hard for other people to do. But I love it. I love the adventure. I'll go, 3, 4 hours just exploring the wilderness, exploring the outdoors by myself, and find it very rejuvenating. And after when I talk to other people, I just find that a lot of people can't do that or aren't comfortable with it.
Yeah. And you said you actually go by yourself.
Hmm.
So you're good at preparing with provisions and water and snacks and all that stuff.
Yep. Yep.
Have you ever gotten in any situation where you've either hurt yourself or you've gotten lost and you're all by yourself?
Yes, I have. Um, yeah, when I was living in Salt Lake City, Utah, I was hiking and it was the winter time, and I was up in the mountains, and I don't know how I got off trail, but I got off trail and I was in waist deep snow. And
Oof.
yeah, it was a moment of like just kind of pure terror. Like, oh my gosh, how I like couldn't go back the way I came. And suddenly like being alone was the worst thing ever. And I was like, wow, I am in the middle of nowhere. No one's coming. It's definitely like probably the scariest moment of my life.
Yeah.
um, so luckily I was able to like tree hop. There were little, like probably normally big trees without snow, but since there's so much
Hmm.
snow, there were just little twigs sticking up, and I was able to like hop from like branch to branch and eventually like made my way out. But that was a very humbling experience and very like
Wow.
nature won on that one. And it was a
Yeah.
good reminder for me that I'm not invincible.
Yeah. Like see your mortality. Yeah. I feel like
Yes.
every year you read about those stories, either like a washout happens or a snowstorm happens, where people that are like really experienced end up like, dying or being lost for weeks, or they find them in their car because they just yeah, you can't win against nature. And
yeah,
I'm scared just thinking about it. That sounds very frightening.
Yeah, it was a good turning point for me to remember to like, you're not invincible. Like be more careful.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
So now the reverse of that question, what's something that is outside of your comfort zone that might be inside of somebody else's?
I think going to like parties or going to more like social situations, it seems more natural for other people. And for me, it's just uncomfortable. Like, I'll go on a 20-mile hike by myself, but like ask me to go to a bar, like, I'd rather not. Like for me, that just seems very daunting. And I don't know, other people make it look so easy and enjoyable.
What's the daunting part about it for you?
It's like an overstimulating situation. And like there's just like a lot of people around. So there's just a lot of unknowns. Like, who am I supposed to be talking to? How am I supposed to dress? Like, I think I put a lot of pressure on myself, and it's just, yeah, it's hard to feel like there's an accomplishable outcome with those situations. Like, what am I supposed to be getting out of it?
That's interesting. So you go into situations expecting to get something out of it or have some sort of tangible outcome?
I think so.
Yeah. I mean, that's interesting because, yeah, you can show up at a bar and like, I'm the opposite. So this is a good example where I'm the inside the comfort zone. I just go out and I'm like, hey, I don't know what's going to happen, but I just want to go and hang out with people, and maybe I meet a new friend. Maybe I don't. Maybe I have fun. Maybe I don't. And it doesn't really matter. That's So are you pretty introverted? Like, do you
Yeah.
consider yourself an introvert? Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that would make sense then. That going to a bar, like going to nature, would be something where you get to be by yourself and recharge.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think it's funny. Like, some people would go, man, like hiking for 4 hours, that sounds exhausting. And that's probably something that actually gives you energy and helps you rejuvenate. For me, like, and I like hiking too, but like the idea of going to a bar also gives me energy. But for you, probably, oh my God, that sounds tiring.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Makes sense. So we're going to move next to a question about public speaking.
Mm-hmm.
Is that inside your comfort zone or outside your comfort zone?
Pretty outside. I've done it a little bit, but I'd say it's outside.
Okay. Well, this is the reason I ask is I'm going to give you a scenario, and you get to deliver a speech to the whole wide world. It's live streamed.
Awesome.
You get to, yeah, it's live streamed. You're on a big stage. It's recorded so people can watch it later. And this is Crystal's 5 minutes to deliver any message you want to the world. What would the message you would give to the world be, and why?
I think there'd be two things in my message. So the first one would be talking about the power of connection. I think people are our greatest asset, and like people have so much more to offer the world than we give them credit for or we set them up for. I think people are what like give us purpose and meaning in life. And so if I could just emphasize like the power of connection and like reaching out to people, that would be like a big part. And then the second takeaway or second message I would want to deliver is to like encourage people to disconnect from one, technology, and two, our worries. So I think like technology is awesome and it has its place, but I also think like it's just so beneficial to take a break from it and to just live in the moment and really not get caught up in what the rest of the world is doing. And then disconnecting from your worries kind of goes along with that, like living presently. I've spent so much energy like worrying about the past or worrying about the future because it's overwhelming and daunting. But like, if we could just live in the present more, I think we would just live happier and more meaningful.
I love it because it's a cool TED Talk actually, because it's like you need to be connected and authentically connect with people, but then you also need to know when to disconnect from the technology, the people, and be yourself too. So to me, like what I hear in all that is that like your speech is around finding that balance.
Mm-hmm.
that's a super cool speech. I would definitely attend your speech live if you gave that speech. Maybe you can give that speech. You are going to go into coaching. One of the things coaches do a lot of is speaking. So that might be something that you consider putting on the table for next year, is actually writing a speech about that and delivering it, like a Toastmasters or maybe even TED Talk. Maybe you can apply for your first TED Talk.
Right. Yeah, that's so
Really?
interesting. I did not even realize that my two things were connecting and disconnecting. I did not even make that connection. Wow.
You can send me a commission when you get paid to give that speech. I'll take a 10% finder's fee.
Yep. Okay. Sounds good.
All right. So Crystal, thanks for sharing everything so far. It's been, I've learned a lot about you, actually. Excited for your speech, Harry Potter. So I know what to send you for a holiday gift.
Yep.
And,
I'll take it.
And I also know that we will never probably meet up at a bar somewhere. We'll probably have to go hiking, would be much more fun for you. Which I would be totally down for as well. So this is a part of the show where you get to share with the audience and with me your journey to today. So, we're here on the podcast today, and what would you like the audience to know about yourself and kind of how you arrived here?
Yeah. So that's a big question. What is your journey? That's a big question. There's a lot there. I think my biggest journey, and it probably might explain the answer to the question about the speech to the world, but I'd say what came to mind, or what comes to mind when I think of that question, is just my ability to connect with people. I think kind of growing up and when I was younger, I kept people at an arm's length away, and people were everywhere, but I was scared of them, and I just did not know really how to relate to people on a deeper level, because I think I was great at connecting with people surface level. It's always been easy for me to make friends or talk to people, but not get close to them and really consider them a good friend. And so the journey has just been it's just been interesting to look back and think of where I was there and where I'm at now, and how I've got there. Lots of therapy. I'm a big fan of therapy. And B is I've moved around a lot, and I've just met people, and I've put myself out there. And I think just giving people a chance to be what you need and be what you're looking for, and just learning how to appreciate people for who they are and what they have to offer. So not expecting everyone to be your best friend, but maybe, this person you go to for certain things and this person you go to for other things. It's just been cool for me to see how powerful connection can be, and how much it's changed my life to learn how to connect with people on a deeper level. And sometimes now I just get overwhelmed. I'm wow, how am I so lucky to have so many awesome people in my life? It's such a contrast. Yeah, it's such a contrast to where I was, 10 years ago. So I think just that journey has been awesome. It's been really cool.
Yeah. Can I ask you a couple follow-up questions?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Easy one. Where you said you've moved around a lot. Where all have you lived?
So I grew up in Iowa, and then I moved to Phoenix, Arizona, Salt Lake City, Utah, and now I'm in New Haven, Connecticut.
Yeah. And I believe you have another move coming up next year, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct. Yep. Graduate in May, and then I think I'm going to move back to Salt Lake City.
Yeah. That would make sense if you're an outdoors person. Salt Lake City is one of the most beautiful cities in the country.
It is. I love it.
Yeah, that's cool. So you mentioned therapy. I'm also a big fan of therapy. I actually interviewed a therapist for the show last week.
Okay.
We had a good conversation. Curious for you, what, I think there's still a stigma from a lot of people that therapy means that there's something wrong with you. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like coaching, there's something wrong with me. You should be able to figure it all out for yourself. What message would you give to the audience around, you said you're a big fan of therapy. So what message would you give to the audience around therapy if it's something they're considering?
Yeah, I would try it. I think it's really important to find the right therapist. So, I think it took me, I was on my third one until I found one that I really connected with. So, I would try it, find one that you really connect with, and then be patient. So I worked with mine for pretty regularly for about 3 years. And I think it took until like a year and a half to look back and be like, wow, like I'm making progress and this is good. Like the first year and a half, I was like, no, this is stupid and this isn't working and I'm just screwed up and I messed up. And I think a lot of people think that there's something wrong with them. And then you realize that everybody thinks that and there is nothing wrong with you. And I think therapists really just like help you make sense of your world and sense of your childhood and help you progress moving forward. And it's just really rewarding. I'm a big fan. I can't talk. And I think the more people own it and talk about it, like the better. And I'm trying to remove the stigma because I think therapy is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just like coaching, and I have a therapist as well, which I've talked about in a previous episode. It's a very iterative process. And it's like, I guess for me, like I just turned 42 and I didn't have a therapist till I was 41. I saw a therapist in junior high for some behavioral issues, but that's a whole different episode. That'd be a whole different episode, which my mom would probably want to talk to everybody about. So yeah, it's like, I feel like you watch the movies where it's like therapy. It's like you go in and like people lay on a couch and then an hour later they're like, oh, I had this big breakthrough. For me, like the thing I would add on to what you said is like find the right person. Of course, I think that's true in any sort of mental health or even a doctor, dentist. Like you want somebody you want to spend time with too. There's no reason to spend time with people you don't want to. To your point about being connected earlier, it's a very iterative process. And I've actually had that happen with my therapist a few times where I'm like, oh, that was a cool conversation. And then like something will come up for me and I'll be like, oh, we talked about that. And what do we actually uncover? Where you kind of like, you have your hour, 50 minutes, you forget. This is how it goes for me. I don't forget, but it's like, I move on to the next thing. Things happen. Same thing happens in coaching for me a lot too, but it's like an iterative process. You're like, oh, wow, we did talk about that. Like, oh, we did uncover that thing. And like, I've had a few breakthroughs when I least expected it, of like the place like, oh, I actually get to make a choice around feeling that way. Or, oh, like that's just a story that I have in my head from my childhood, not actually the truth anymore. So yeah, I think therapy is super cool. And I think it's super cool that you're going to go into coaching because, as you know, therapy and coaching are not the same. So for the audience, therapy we look at from an ethical perspective is more of a past-based and healing conversation. Coaching is about where, like, if Crystal's a client, where is Crystal today and where does she want to go? But there's a lot of similarities. You talk about a lot of the same things. It's just that coaching, there's no healing. It's more moving yourself forward. So that's really cool. I had one more question about the therapy thing that you brought up. So obviously a topic I'm passionate about. What, if you wouldn't mind sharing and, keep it as broad as you'd like, what's one of the biggest breakthroughs you've had about yourself that's been uncovered through your therapy work?
The biggest breakthrough, I would say, unintentionally, I feel like I grew up with a lot of like shame about who I am as a person. And I have some of the best parents in the world, but I just felt a lot of shame from my childhood. And so I think a really big breakthrough was just learning, like, you're not a bad person. No matter what you've done, no matter like, who you are, what tendencies you have, what your personality is, like, I think that was such a big breakthrough for me because it was part of my identity that like I'm a bad person. And like that shift was huge because then that allowed me to connect with people. It allowed me to, it was huge.
Yeah, that's really cool. You'll learn this next year when you start accomplishment coaching. One of the first things tenets you learn is when you are coaching somebody that you view them as perfect where they are. So they're where they're supposed to be. They know the answers they're supposed to know, and they're good. Like because I think that the opposite of that, and this is also something that I've struggled with for most of my life, is there's always something to fix with me. There's always something wrong with me that I need to go out and fix and I'm not good enough, or maybe I'm good enough at some things, but not at other things. Maybe I don't like this part about my personality. So how do I fix it? Versus like, hey, Crystal's good where she is today. Like, she's great. Like, this is where she's supposed to be. And what do we get to create together from there? So I think it's just like, that's been a major shift for me with therapy work and coaching work, of realizing that it's not all about fixing yourself. as well. Like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, like, what do you actually want to create? What are you committed to? And I know, we've talked about that, and this is something you'll get a lot of experience with next year when you join the program.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for sharing all that, and thanks for being a little bit vulnerable. That was really interesting and touching to hear.
Yeah.
Now, after I ask you the tough questions or interesting questions for the last half hour or so, this is the part of the show where you get to ask me anything you'd like. And yes, I do reserve the right to pass on the question, but I haven't had that happen to me yet. So, Crystal, what would you like to ask me that I can answer for you and the audience, of course?
Right. How about what's a favorite memory that you've had in your 20s? As I'm like nearing the end of mine and look back, it's been like a roller coaster of awesome and transformative, but like what's your favorite memory, or what's a cool experience from your 20s?
Oh, I love this question. I have two things that immediately come to mind. Can I share two?
Yeah.
Okay. So the first memory I have, my 20s is pretty good, actually. I went through a tremendous transition in my 20s, like I think most people in their 20s do. So the first thing that comes to mind is I moved to New York City when I was 27. So 2005, I was living, most of the audience knows I'm from Minnesota. I lived there my whole life. And I decided to move to New York City. And so the memory that sticks out for me is so the way my move worked is I moved with my company. So they paid for a moving truck, and I came out a month before to find an apartment. And for those who live in New York City know that finding an apartment it's not easy. Like you have to really like pull the trigger when you're ready. So I found this apartment that I liked, way more expensive than I could afford. Welcome to New York City. And I fly, it's the day after Easter 2005. And I get on the plane and I fly to New York City, and I go to my apartment, and my stuff's supposed to arrive. And then I get a call from the moving company. For whatever reason, they're a big moving company. They didn't know that you can't drive a full semi-tractor trailer into Manhattan. I lived in Manhattan. So they had to transfer all of my stuff into like a U-Haul, like a smaller truck that actually you can drive in New York. You can't drive semi-trucks in Manhattan at all. They don't even fit under in the tunnels or the bridges. So I remember sitting in my apartment in New York City, like on the floor with nothing. Like I had nothing. I had like a change of clothes, my work laptop, and a cell phone. And I remember sitting there thinking, this is still the coolest thing ever. Like who even cares? Like I can walk outside. I live in New York City. Mm-hmm. So that was the first memory. And then my stuff came 3 days later. It all worked out. My second one, which I've never shared in this podcast, is how I met my wife. So it's it's the perfect New York City story. Mm-hmm. So I was dating a really great girl, and we both lived on the Upper East Side. And my roommate at the time was moving. He was actually moving to Denver with his girlfriend. And we had a 2-bedroom apartment on the Upper East Side. So I decided to move to the Village. And I found an amazing loft with this random person off of Craigslist. Again, perfect New York City story. And so I decided to move there. And my girlfriend at the time was still living in the Upper East Side. And it was pretty apparent that it wasn't going to be a long-term thing. I think we still liked each other, but it was like likely we were kind of like going different paths. I was 29. She was 24. She was finishing grad school. She's a teacher. I was a little bit further in my career. And so the best part of this apartment, it had a 400 square foot deck in the back of it, like in this amazing secret area in the Village. It was unbelievable. So what do? To your point about being inside and outside comfort zone, I throw a party my first weekend there. Invite my girlfriend, her friends. So I probably had like 20 or 30 people. And my friend John and his girlfriend Jill came, and they brought their friend Kirsten. My girlfriend's name at the time was Kirsten. Kirsten. And Kirsten is Kirstin. So we have a great party. It's a fun party. And Kirsten and I ended up talking, totally innocent. There was nothing there. Just like, hey, it's like John and Jill's friend. She's really cool. And Kirsten and I broke up the next day. it's kind of like a typical New York story. Like, oh, we don't live in the same neighborhood anymore. We don't like each other that much. Like, this doesn't really make sense.
Mm-hmm.
It was mutual. It was fine. Like, like breakups are always challenging, but it was fine. So I throw another party 2 weeks later, and Kirsten and John and Jill come again with another 30 or 35 people, another amazingly fun party. And Kirsten and I start talking. And we realize we have a lot in common. I didn't see her as like a potential person to date because I just got out of a relationship. But we just had a good conversation and we had mutual friends and that was cool. And then I remember, like, it's my party, and I remember saying to her, I'm like, hey, do you want to get like ice cream? And she's like, well, I don't eat ice cream. I ate frozen yogurt. I'm like, cool. You want to get frozen yogurt? So we like left the party and walked across the street. It's right on Broadway. There was a deli there. We got frozen yogurt. And then I emailed her like that week and I'm like, hey, do you want to get together sometime? And then we had our first date like 10 days later. And I remember saying to her, oh, by the way, she had met Kirsten at the first party. So on our first date, which we had our first date at this cool restaurant on Bleecker Street in West Village. Still, it's not the same restaurant, but still there. And I remember saying to her, I'm like, aren't you going to ask me? She's like, yeah, what's up? Like, I don't really, like, I met your girlfriend. And I'm like, yeah, it wasn't really working out. I think you're cool. Like, like to get to know you. And we've been married for 10 years, May of this year. We have a 3-year-old. So, yeah, those are my, like, I have a lot of memories, but those are the memories that really stick out to me. So thank you. That was a really cool question. I've never shared either of those stories on my podcast. So it was really fun. So thank you for asking that question.
Yeah. Yeah. You must really have liked her at the time to have left your own party to go get frozen yogurt with her.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, at some point, party with friends or a cute girl that you might want to go spend more time with. Like, it's kind of an easy choice. I think most of us would make the choice that I made if you're thinking that maybe somebody's pretty cool. I would hope so anyway. That would be the lesson I would give for everybody. If you feel that there's something there, don't be afraid to break off from the party and go hang out with them for a bit.
There you go.
There we are. Last thing here, which I have to share, which my wife is going to kill me, but that's okay. My friend would call Kirsten K1 and my wife K2. She didn't like that very much. So Kirsten, if you listen to this sometime, you can, I owe you big time.
Right.
We joke about it now, but
K2.
it wasn't that great at the time. As you can imagine, being called the second of anything was not ideal for people. Cool. So enough about me. That's uncomfortable. Like, this is weird. I don't like being asked questions. No, that was really good. Thanks, Crystal.
Yeah.
So coming back around to you, what are you passionate about? What are you most passionate about?
What am I most passionate about? I think I really like when people are their best selves. And I think I've just become passionate about it as I've gone through the transition myself. As I've learned what being your best self actually looks like, and then trying to build your life around it, I think is super cool. And I've loved it. And I get so excited when other people are on the journey, or if I can help them, what that looks like physically, or their dream job, or friendships, relationships. I think people sometimes think that those things are impossible in life. And I just love watching it come true, or helping them, or just kind of being that catalyst to help them get what they want, as I've seen people help me get what I want.
Man, you are going into the right field. It's
Yeah.
literally what a good coach would do for their clients is help them see what's possible and live their best life. That's why people pay for coaches. I mean, if you could sum it all up, that's it. You are going to be a great coach if that's what you're passionate about, which I believe you from what I know of you, that is totally true. So that is amazing. Helping people live their best life and be their truest self. What's your perspective on people that they don't know? They're like, I don't know what my best life is. I don't know what it looks like to feel empowered. What's your perspective on, well, first of all, have you been in that space before? And second of all, well, you are human, so I'm assuming at some point in your life you've been in that. So first of all, I'll just answer the question for you. Yes, you have, because you're human. We've all been there. What advice would you give, or coaching would you give to anybody listening where they're like, man, I don't know what my best self looks like. I'm like feeling, I'm not feeling like I'm seeing it for myself.
Mhm.
What process have you gone through that you could offer up to the audience that they might be able to take on for themselves?
Mhm. Yes, definitely. I'd say I'm the queen of I don't know. That's like the answer I give life the most is I don't know what I want. I don't know what I want to do career wise. Like I've said, I don't know a lot. So I think what I've found is that you just experience as much as you can. And then eventually you'll start recognizing like what you connect with, what really excites you, what do you not like. Um, I hated when I was working at a job and I would tell someone that and they're like, "Oh, well, at least you're discovering what you don't like." And like that answer just like infuriated me, but like it's true. Like it's
Yeah.
absolutely true that like and just the more you can get out and do an experience, then I think you'll find what really excites you and what you want out of life.
Yeah. If I could add to that a piece of advice to the audience as well, and I spent years in this space, I'm speaking from personal experience. Don't spend too much time in the I don't like this place. Like if you're like, I don't like this, don't sit there for another 3 years
Mhm.
expecting that you're going to suddenly like it. Like, yeah, I think you can always create positive things around a lot of things in life, but yeah, like experience it. If you don't like it, figure out what you do like, as opposed to like, oh, I don't like this, but it's the only choice I've got, or I'm feeling that there's something that I have to do. Because there's never been a time in humanity to the choices that the choices for all of us are just almost endless, and what we can actually do for a living, the kind of people we can be with from a romantic relationship or friendships, and like you said earlier, the connectedness that we have. Like you're going to move to Utah, I can still FaceTime you or message you, and in 3 seconds talk to you face to face if I want to. Like that, there's never been a
Mhm.
better time to do that. So, yeah, just like what I'd say from a coaching or advice perspective is like, yeah, just like there's always more options. There's always other things. And I know you've obviously narrowed down your thing. You've gone through grad school. You've
Mhm.
done some positions that weren't your perfect thing. And then you've like, oh, coaching. Oh, I've been a coachee or a client. You're like,
Mhm.
oh, I want to be on the other side of that. So now like as an I don't know person, you made a very strong commitment to a year-long, very intensive program. So applaud you. That is not an I don't know. That is not an I don't know decision that you made there.
Mhm. Thanks. Yeah, and it came by saying yes to opportunities that led me to get to where I'm at. So definitely the more you can say yes and experience things, then you learn.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's the old cliche of improv, which I'm an improv person, is like the yes and. It's also similar in coaching with clients. Yes, you have this job that you get paid for, and what do you create versus yes but or no but, which are both really no's. So
Mm.
yes and, big fan of the yes and. I
Mhm.
actually removed even in emails, I really try hard to never say yes, but or no. I try to yes and almost everything. It's a little weird sometimes because sometimes it's like, I mean, if it's a no, it's a no. Like, could you get together this time? No. But I really try to do yes and like, it's kind of changed for me internally how I view the world as well. I used to be a lot more cynical and a lot more black and white, right or wrong. You either make this decision and it's good, or you make this other decision and it's bad. And like, it's just open up to like, it can all be good. You can have a lot of yeses, and so create what you want.
Mhm.
So what are you most proud of, Crystal?
I think so when I was like a year out of undergrad and was lost and didn't know, what to do with life. Um, I was talking to a friend and she mentioned that she was like doing a marathon. And I was like, oh, I can do a marathon. Like, that sounds doable. Um, and um, I had done 2 half marathons before, and I felt ready to try a full marathon. And so I trained for it, and it was hard. Like that's a lot of running, and I don't like really consider myself to have like a runner's body. Like I'm not like super lean. Like I just maybe that's just an excuse, but like it was really hard. But um, I signed up and I did it, and it was like the most rewarding experience ever. Like I am so proud of that run. Like I didn't do it fast. But my goal was to finish and to run without ever walking. Like to just never walk. And so
Mm-hmm.
that was just such a big, like, I'm still, I mean, it's been a while now, but I'm still so proud. And now, like, anytime I'm about to do something hard, I'm like, well, you ran a marathon, like, you can do this. It's definitely like set a high bar, but
Yeah,
I'm pretty proud of that.
that's awesome. Which marathon did you run?
It was in Phoenix. It wasn't the actual Phoenix one. It was in Glendale. I don't remember the name of the race. It's a smaller one, but I have a goal to run. Now I have a goal to do one in less than 4 hours, which is
Wow.
really quick. And that's going to be a lot.
Yeah.
It's a high goal for me, but
Yeah.
I think I can do it.
I know you can do it. I mean, what is that? A eight and
It's
a
about an
half
8.
minute
Yep.
pace.
Hmm.
Yeah. No, that's Kirsten has ran the New York City Marathon twice.
Okay.
And, both times we were together. So I understand the training regimen that takes.
Yeah.
It's
It's
a
a lot.
lot. It's a lot. Yeah. It's a lot. It's hard on your body. It's hard on your lungs,
Hmm.
hard on your heart. Like it's just a thing that, you really have to train for I have this one friend who's super annoying. He ran it in Converse without training. And he's just like, I think he's a Terminator. I don't think he's actually like a human
Yeah.
being underneath his skin. And he's like, oh, that was easy. I'm like, oh, that's
Yeah.
so annoying.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, running a marathon is something so outside of my comfort zone. I hate running. I
Mm-hmm.
love cycling. Like I've done a few centuries, like, like 108-mile bike rides. Like I love biking and I like hiking, I like walking, I like swimming, but running, I'm just bored. Within like 2 minutes, I'm like, this is not fun.
Hmm.
I don't have the mental stamina to do it. That's the thing for me is like running a long distance is like the mental part of it
Hmm.
of like, I just get bored and like, I just started thinking, oh, my feet hurt. This is annoying. I don't like doing this. Too slow. And it's also too slow for me because I'm a fast person. So I like bikes because you can go, and you can also do some coasting, which is nice. And you
Hmm.
have hills you can coast down and you can choose to speed up or slow down pretty quickly versus like running. I think it's hard to actually like have too much of a variance or you end up burning yourself out.
Hmm.
As you see a lot of people do at the beginning. Congratulations on the marathon. Something else I learned about you that I did not know.
Yeah.
So this question is going to get a little bit vulnerable, but I think you're up for it. Well, I'm going to ask, are you up for a little bit of vulnerability here?
Yeah, I am.
Okay. Yeah. Crystal? So what's something you're afraid might actually be true about you?
Yeah, that is a very interesting question. Um, and I remember you asking it one time in one of our coaching sessions, and
Mm-hmm.
it definitely threw me for a loop then. Um, and I have a different answer today. Today, my answer is that I'm capable of starting and running my own business. I think that, like, it's kind of just been a recent idea, and I'm like, I don't know if I like have it in me. Um, you know, it seems so unconventional. It seems so not, I don't know, it's just a whole new world. And that's, talk about being outside your comfort zone. Like, I feel so like young and like I don't know enough, and like who am I to be able to do this big daunting task? Um, but like if it's true, then like wow, that's really awesome, and I would feel like so accomplished and so satisfied, and like I feel like it would be the best thing ever if it were true.
So what I just want to make sure that I am clear about that. What you're afraid might actually be true about you. You are actually fully capable of doing whatever you want.
Yeah.
What makes you afraid about that?
There's this weird fear about getting what you want. Maybe that's just me. I've seen it in others, but I can attest for myself that like the closer I get to what I want, just this like fear and turmoil comes in, which like doesn't really logically make sense, because if we're getting what we want, it should be exciting and awesome and just great. But there's this fear that goes with it, and I think it's the fear of like, well, if I get it, that like then what do I work towards? Like what obstacles am I going to be breaking down? Or I don't really know what the fear is, but there's a fear there.
Mm-hmm. So you've made two big decisions, right? So you're starting a company,
Mm-hmm.
and then you're also going to be doing a coaching program next year.
Yes.
What's been the feedback from your friends and family around that?
Nothing but positive and greatness, especially
That's
with the
awesome.
business, which is almost harder. Like I have no reason not to do it because anytime I tell someone about it, they're like, "Oh, that's a great idea. Like you'll be great at that. There's a market for that. Like that is awesome." So it almost makes it harder to doubt it because no one has given me any reason to doubt it or anything. So I've gotten a
Yeah,
lot of
that's amazing.
positive feedback.
That's really awesome. Yeah. So part of the reason I asked that question is you generally get one of two answers to that. Either like people are super supportive, or people will look at you, and like you're in a graduate degree program. So like the natural path with a graduate degree is to go get a job somewhere. And an
Hmm.
industrial organization generally with a degree there, I would say my guess would be most of your peers go into bigger companies. Like that's a job that you'd have bigger companies. So I was wondering if you had some people that were like, "Oh, whoa, Crystal, like you're spending time at school and are you doing this thing?" They love you, but they're scared for themselves because you're actually out there creating what you want, like you said. And a lot of
Hmm.
people follow the path like, I should do this. I know I did this for a long time too. Like I didn't even think about it when I graduated college, and then like the first 19 years of my career, like, oh, this is what I should do. I'm going to do it. I'm good at it. Great. And I think that's really cool that you have a lot of support. You obviously have 10 coaches who've talked to you about it,
Hmm.
which is hilarious.
Hmm.
You may be the most coached person out there. Well, maybe I guess the other guest clients as well. But yeah, I'm going to tell you, I think it's true that you can create whatever you want. So you can be afraid that that is actually true about you.
Thank you. That's
Yeah,
good
and
to hear.
yeah, and I can't wait to see. Can't wait for your launch. Can't wait to see it. Would you mind? Would you be open to sharing with the audience a little bit about the business, or is it still too early for that?
Yeah, yeah, no, I can share. Um, so a few years ago, my friend group and I were asked to build some escape rooms for our youth program at church. And so we built 6 of them and we took them to the youth and like set them up in like these empty classrooms at a school and like the youth did them. And it was like super fun and I loved it and didn't really think much of it a few years ago. And now fast forward, I'm like pretty unsatisfied with the job market. I'm like, man, I just don't love a lot of the jobs that I've had. And so I've had the thought of like, well, maybe I can, go back to this escape room business and like run it with companies as a team builder, like build one, design it, take it to a conference room and kind of run it as, you know, a, a team builder. And so that's where I'm at right now. It's definitely still in infancy. Um, I have like a room designed at this point, but I don't have the materials yet, and I haven't I haven't started testing it on people. But it's been super fun, and I've loved. Um, I've had some like brainstorming sessions with to involve other people to help me with creativity, and it's been a great journey so far.
That's really cool. I've got another question for you.
Hmm.
Can I be a tester?
Yeah, you sure can.
Good. I'm wildly competitive.
Uh
My
huh.
Strengths Finder test, which is a diagnostic test for your 34 metrics. My number one strength is competition.
Mm.
So for me, like an escape room, and also I love people and I love working as a team. So for me, like working as a team to compete against like a clock or another team is like, I would just want to do that all day long. Like if I could just do
Hmm.
that, and I've never done one, and I love puzzles, I love games.
Hmm.
So I feel like there's a miss, first of all, that I've never done it because there's a bunch of them here in New York City.
Yeah.
And but now that I know you, I am ready for the invite when you're ready to test something. As long as
Yeah.
there's no math involved, I hate math.
There might be a little math, but one of your teammates, I'm sure, will be good at math. So that's why we're on a team, right?
Yeah, I'll be the person who fires everybody up and delegates what everybody's going to do, and
Right.
then I said I'm really good at holding up the wall and supervising. I'm kidding. I like to get in the mud. I don't like math, but I like all the most everything else. So
Hmm.
very cool, Crystal. I'm excited for you. And then you had mentioned that you're doing accomplishment coaching. Can you talk a
Hmm.
little bit about that?
Yeah. So I am super excited for that. And I think that a comment that you made, I get more like reservation when I tell people that I'm doing a coaching program versus starting my own business. Some people are like, oh, like, are you sure? Like, do you know where that's going to lead you? Or like, it's just more of a off the beaten trail career route, I think. And so people, I've gotten a little more, hesitation with that, but I couldn't be more excited about it. I think, I love accomplishment coaching's tagline of like life by design. Like, I love that. And I think I've loved it for me. I want to help other people do it. Um, I'll be doing the San Diego location. So I'll fly once a month from Salt Lake to San Diego. And I think, like, for me, it's an easy commitment. It's an easy choice. I love the coaches that I've had, like you said, like what an awesome opportunity that I've been coached by so many different people to see their styles, learn how to work with different ones. Like, what do they have to bring to the table? But I just love that the overarching goal of it is to like help people be their best selves. Like, that's really what it comes down to. And to find a job that allows me to do that is so exciting to me.
Yeah, it's super cool. Just for the audience around coaching, one of the things that's super cool about coaching and coaching programs, good ones, and I think accomplishment coaching is, I'm biased, and I think you're probably biased as well at this point, is that not only do you learn how to coach others, but you learn a lot about yourself. I started my program in February of 2019, and this episode, we're recording this in December of 2019. I'm a pretty different person than I was, and not in all ways, but in some ways, I would describe it as the parts of me that I would say are like quote unquote the positive parts have been accelerated. So like, it's like I know how to show up more authentically. I know more about myself, and the parts that have been holding me back are the things that in the past maybe have served me, or like we talk about like the limiting belief of like, oh, it's right or it's wrong, it's black or it's white. A lot of those things I'm breaking apart. And I've gone through a tremendous amount of transformation, independent of the people I've coached. And I have a thriving coaching practice, and that's how I know Crystal. But you'll have the same thing for yourself, which is super cool as an entrepreneur. Coaching is not the only thing I want to do either, and it doesn't sound like it's the only thing you want. So you get to take all these skills, you get to build a coaching practice, and then you can say, hey, I want to be the CEO of an escape room company, and use the same things I'm learning to bring to bear on my employees, to bring to bear on my customers. When I'm out here creating these things, you get to use all this information, all these skills that you're learning on how to coach others. Actually, you get to learn how to coach yourself too. Most of the coaches that I know are pretty high performing and high functioning people for the most part, if they've gone through a professional program. So kudos to you. I'm super excited that you're going through it. And we were actually talking about it. One of the other coaches who coached you, it's like, it's really cool to have a guest client who ends up doing the program, because it likely means like you said, you had a positive experience with the coaches. Because if you're like, oh, this is weird, you wouldn't have wanted to do the program. You're like, I don't want to be like these people. This is weird.
Right.
So that's super cool. And I'm very excited for you. And I'm jealous because, it's December in New York City. It's going to be like 25 degrees, and you're going to be in San Diego next December. You're going to be like, I might go take a walk by the ocean. Yeah, it's like 60 degrees. This is great.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Excited.
Yeah, so we're going to wrap up here in a few minutes. So I just have a few more questions for you if you have a few more minutes for us.
Yep.
So you've shared a lot about this already, but like, how would you summarize your general philosophy on life?
I think my general philosophy is to live and learn. I think the more that you live, then the more that you learn. And I feel like when I tell myself this, that helps me when I'm like feeling frustrated or stuck that things aren't going the way that I planned. From like big things of jobs and career to little things like when I take a wrong turn and I get frustrated. Like, as long as I'm learning from my experiences, then I feel like it's like a success and it's a win. So definitely just like live and learn.
Yep. Awesome. Live and learn.
Hmm.
So is there anything else you'd like to share with the audience? And I like that to ask this question because sometimes my guests and co-hosts, as we're talking about things, they'll be like, oh, I wish I would have mentioned that earlier. So this is where I like to give you a chance to come back if you've got anything that you'd like to share with the audience that we didn't get a chance to cover today.
Mm-hmm. I think just to note that it's really fun to watch people create things from their lives. And I know we've like kind of touched about this, but like just to see you do this podcast, and I've seen some of, your classmates or cohort members in the program like create things from their lives is just it's really fun to watch. It's fun to be part of. And I just think creation is really cool. And I'm like, that's kind of a new insight for me, but I'm like, yeah, like creation is cool.
Yeah. And now you get to create escape rooms for people. Talk about being creative.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's like almost like a blank slate in a way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's very cool. So Crystal, if the audience would like to connect with you, how can they find you? Like where are you visible, and where can people connect with you if they'd like to know more about you?
Yeah. So I'm a bit off the grid. I don't really have social media, but I do have a LinkedIn. So if people want to connect with me, Crystal Nye on LinkedIn. And that's about it.
I'll definitely put that in the show notes so people can connect with you.
Yeah.
So we always wrap up the show the same way, and love if you'd leave us and the audience with some words of wisdom, and they need to fit on a Post-it note or on a computer desktop. So it's something that I could take, pop in my computer and look at quickly in the morning. Leave us with some words of wisdom.
Okay. I'll keep it brief then. I would say yes to life and live in the moment.
I love that, Crystal.
Is that brief enough for you?
I love it. Say yes to life and live in the moment. Mm-hmm. Well, Crystal, thank you so much for being on today. It was an absolute pleasure to have you, have the audience get to know you. And I wish you the very best in all your future endeavors.
Yeah. Thanks, Jason. It's been great to be on. This was a fun conversation. Appreciate it.
Yep. Thank you, Crystal. Thanks for listening to another episode of Talking to Cool People with me, Jason Frizzell. Enjoyed today's episode? Please tell your friends, give us a shout out and a follow on Facebook and Instagram, and take a moment to leave us a review on iTunes. If something from this episode has piqued your interest and you'd like to connect about it, please email us at podcast@jasonfrizzell.com. We love hearing from our listeners.